The decreasing order of acidic character of the following is CH3SH, CH3OH, H2O, and ETOH. Fine. So basically, we need to find out the decreasing order of acidic character of the following compounds given to us. Thiol, alcohol, water, ethyl alcohol. Okay, fine. So basically over here, I just want to say one thing, that acidic strength is directly proportional to stability of conjugate base formed from the compounds. Okay. So initially only I am just saying this particular expression, the relationship between the acidic strength and the stability of conjugate base. More is the stability of conjugate base formed, more will be its acidic strength. More will be the acidic strength of the corresponding compound or the corresponding acid. Clear? If I just say you one thing, that between thiol and alcohol, CH3SH and CH3OH, thiols are stronger acid in comparison to alcohols. Thiols are stronger acid in comparison to alcohols. Reason being, sulfur. In thiol, we do have sulfur, and sulfur is less electronegative than oxygen. Sulfur is less electronegative than oxygen. And SH bond is weaker in nature in comparison to OH bond. SH bond is weaker in comparison to OH bond. So what happens that there is easy release of proton from thiols in comparison to CH3OH. Are you getting my point? Sulfur is less electronegative in nature in comparison to oxygen, and SH bond is weaker bond in comparison to OH bond. So if I just talk about the case of thiol, there is easy release of this particular proton. There is easy release of H positive ion from thiols. And if an acid releases H positive ion very easily and quickly, that acid is the stronger acid in comparison to the others. Same is the case happening over here between CH3SH and CH3OH. Clear? So the release of H positive ion from CH3SH is easier and quicker in comparison to the release of H positive ion from CH3OH. Moreover, if I just talk about their conjugate base stabilization, the conjugate base formed from CH3SH is CH3S negative, and the conjugate base formed from CH3OH is CH3O negative. Absolutely right? Yeah, absolutely right. So basically over here, sulfur, the size of sulfur atom is more in comparison to the size of oxygen atom. The atomic radii of sulfur is large in comparison to the atomic radii of oxygen. So the negative charge is going to stabilize very easily and in a very good manner in CH3S negative. S, the negative charge on sulfur atom, is going to stabilize very nicely. Why? Because the atomic radii, atomic size of sulfur atom is more in comparison to the atomic radii of oxygen atom. So the dispersion of negative charge on sulfur atom will be stable in comparison to the dispersion of negative charge in oxygen atom. Therefore, if I talk about the stability of conjugate base, the stability of conjugate base CH3S negative is more than the stability of the conjugate base CH3O negative. Now, if this particular conjugate base is more stable than the conjugate base formed of CH3OH, fine. So, stable is the conjugate base, more will be the acidity of that corresponding compound. Okay, what I mean to say over here, more is the stability of conjugate base formed, stronger is the acidity of the compound, of the corresponding compound. So the corresponding compound of CH3S negative, the corresponding compound, the corresponding acid of the conjugate base CH3S negative is CH3SH. Hence the acidity of CH3SH is more in comparison to CH3OH. I have given you all the reasonings why this particular thing is happening up. Now if I just talk about the stability of conjugate base formed from CH3OH and H2O. So over here it is an exception. remember this is an exception, that the acidity of methanol CH3OH is more than that of water H2O. Now, the conjugate base methoxide ion of CH3OH and the conjugate base hydroxide ion of H2O. Okay, so over here, the one reasoning I can give you that why the conjugate base methoxide ion is more stable in comparison to hydroxide ion. One reason is that carbon is more electronegative in nature in comparison to hydrogen. Carbon is more electronegative in nature in comparison to hydrogen. So the dispersal of negative charge present on oxygen atom will be actually stable in case of CH3O negative in comparison to OH negative. Okay, carbon being more electronegative in nature in comparison to hydrogen will stabilize the anion. Clear? Therefore, if I talk about the stability of conjugate base, so methoxide ion is more stable than hydroxide ion. Therefore, the corresponding acid methanol is more acidic than water H2O. Now, if I talk about ETOH, the conjugate base formed from ETOH will be CH3, CH2, and its O negative. Now, this ethyl group is going to show plus inductive effect, positive inductive effect, and it is electron releasing in nature. Okay, so it's showing inductive effect, positive inductive effect. That means it will destabilize the negative charge present on oxygen atom. Hence, it is least acidic in nature. So it will be then ETOH. Fine. So it's first, which is more acidic, then second, then third, and then fourth. Hence, option number A is the right answer to this particular question. Question over here is, which of the following sets of quantum numbers represents the highest energy of an atom? Which of the following sets of quantum number represents the highest energy of an atom? Okay. So let's look to the options over here, and I'm seeing that yeah, n is equals to 3, L is equals to 0, M equals to 0, and S is equals to half. Over here, we are mainly concerned with the values of n and L. Based on these two particular values, we'll actually calculate out the set of quantum number that represents the highest energy of an atom. Clear? Yeah, means there is actually the importance of M and S both. But for this particular question, I will say that I look only and only for N and L value and calculate out your answer. So when N is equals to 3, that means the principal quantum number is 3, and the azimuthal quantum number, which actually represents the subshell, which is actually equals to 0, it becomes 3s subshell. Clear? If I talk about option number B over here, the principal quantum number is 3 and the azimuthal quantum number L equals to 1. That means it is 3p subshell. Okay. Now N is equals to 3 and L is equals to 2. L equals to 2 means it's actually belongs to D subshell. So it becomes 3D subshell. Talking about option number D, N is equals to 4 and L equals to 0. It means it belongs to 4s subshell. Now you might have heard about and you might have studied about N plus L rule, which actually describes the energy of the orbiter. It actually describes the energy of the orbiter. So, from N plus L rule, what is the value of N plus L for 3s subshell? It is 3 plus 0, which is equals to 3. Then it is 3 plus 1 equals to 4. Then it is 3 plus 2, which is equals to 5. And then it is 4 plus 0, which is equals to 4. Absolutely right. Yes. Now, more is the value of N plus L, more will be the energy of that particular atom. More will be the energy of that particular atom, or you can say the subshell we are talking about. So basically over here, the highest value is for 3D subshell. That means the set of quantum number that represents the highest energy of an atom is actually option number C, wherein we are talking about 3D subshell. So the energy of 3D subshell is the highest. Now, if the value of N plus L is the same for 2 subshell, then that particular subshell will be having the highest energy, which is having the high value of principal quantum number. Among 3p and 4s subshell, I'll say 4s subshell is having the highest energy. Reason being, the principal quantum number n is equals to 4 for 4s and principal quantum number is equals to 3 for 3p. So more is the value of principal quantum number, more will be its energy. Fine. Then comes the turn of 3p and then comes the turn, the least energy is being possessed by 3s subshell. So this is actually the order, and according to it, if we want to mark the option over here, it's option number C, which is absolutely the right answer to this particular question. Question over here is the density of an ideal gas at 298 Kelvin and 1 atm. The density of an ideal gas at 298 Kelvin and 1 atm is found to be 1.25 kg per meter cube. Density of the gas at 1.5 atm, density of the gas at 1.5 atm and at 298 Kelvin is what? Density of an ideal gas at 298 Kelvin and 1 atm is found to be 1.25 kg per meter cube. Now, what is the density of the gas at 1.5 atm and at 298 Kelvin? So, what we are seeing over here that the temperature given to us is constant. Okay, for both the gases, fine. So, one relation we know for an ideal gas between pressure and density. So for an ideal gas, there is a relationship between pressure and density. That is, density is equals to Pm by RT. This we have studied in the chapter states of matter. Absolutely right. So we can also write it as that pressure is equals to dRT by M. I can also write it like this. Okay. Which means from both the expression that pressure is directly proportional to density. Pressure is directly proportional to density. Since over here temperature is kept constant for both the gases, so I can write one thing that P1 by D1 is equals to P2 by D2. Since the temperature over here for both the gases is kept constant. Now we want to find out the value of density of the gas at 1.5 atm. That means the value of D2. Because over here P1 given to us is 1 atm. And D1 given to us is equals to 1.25 kg per meter cube. Okay. So we want to find out the value of D2 and the value of P2 has been given to us as 1.5 atm. Substitute all the values over here and get the answer. So it's D2 is equals to P2 into D1 upon P1. So what is P2? It is 1.5. Okay, so P2 is equals to 1.5. What is D1? It's 1.25. Okay, divided by P1, which is 1 atm. 1.5 atm. This is 1.5 atm. It is 1.25 kg per meter cube. Atm cancels out with atm. So it's 1.5 multiplied by 1.25. So when you'll just multiply these two particular terms, you will get the answer as 1.875 kg per meter cube. Hence, I'll say option number D is the right answer to this question. Question over here is, for the reaction, carbon monoxide in the gaseous state plus half O2 in the gaseous state is in equilibrium with carbon dioxide in the gaseous state. Kp by Kc is what? Okay. Now over here, what do you mean by Kp? It is the equilibrium constant in terms of partial pressure. And what is Kc? It is equilibrium constant in terms of concentration. And there is an expression relationship between Kp and Kc. So Kp is equals to Kc. Kp is equals to Kc within bracket RT raised to power delta Ng. Delta Ng is difference in total number of moles of the products and reactants. Okay, in the gaseous state. So if I just calculate out the value of delta Ng first. So it is equals to total number of gaseous moles of the product minus total number of gaseous moles of the reactant. So for the product, if I just go with, it is 1 mole. Because over here it is CO2 in the gaseous state and it's 1 mole. So 1 minus within bracket 1 plus half. So it becomes 1 minus, okay, it's 2. So it's basically 1 minus 3 by 2. 1 minus 3 by 2. Okay. So it becomes equals to how it's actually become equals to minus half. So the value of delta Ng is equals to minus half. Now Kp by Kc is equals to RT raised to power delta Ng. Substitute the value of delta Ng. So RT raised to power minus half Hence, for the reaction, CO plus half O2 is an equilibrium carbon dioxide. Kp by Kc is equals to RT raised to power minus half. Hence, we'll say option number C is the right answer to this question. 50 ml of 1 normal HCl is mixed with 50 ml of a 1 molar NaOH solution. The resulting solution will be, over here we are given with two strong things, strong acid as well as strong base, and over here obviously they'll be completely neutralized. Now if they are getting completely neutralized, obviously the resulting solution will be neutral. That means option number B is the right answer to this particular question. Well, if I just calculate out the milli equivalents for acid, so milli equivalent for acid, it will be equal to 50 into 1, which is equals to 50. 50 ml into 1, which is equals to 50. So, milli equivalent for acid is equals to 50. Okay, why so? Because see, over here we are given within normality. And if I talk about the N factor for HCl, it is equals to 1. N factor for HCl is equals to 1, as well as N factor for NaOH is equals to 1. Okay, because the charge on both cation and anion is equals to 1. That means N factor is equals to 1. So molarity becomes 1 molar for this, and molarity is already given for NaOH. So basically we need not to actually convert this particular thing. Okay, so what I want to say is, see, in a very short form I want to say that the milli equivalent for acid HCl is equals to 50 into 1, it is equals to 50, as well as milli equivalent for base is equals to 50 ml into 1 molar, which is equals to 50 only. Now, since both the acid and base, they are strong, hence complete neutralization is going to take place. Milli equivalents for both acid and base, they are equal. That means complete neutralization is going to take place. The resulting solution will be neutral only. That means option number B is the right answer to this particular question.